Are you there?
Yeah.
Let me see. Yeah.
Hello, yeah.
You're registering. I see the wave things.
Probably not that loud.
Yeah, what is it with you guys? Come on, you sing.
Yeah, I know, but...
What?
Yeah, no, I still need to project more.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, probably.
You're a lead guitar player.
Yeah.
You're not a bass player. You should be out front.
I was. Have you heard? Are you up to speed?
Up to speed? Well, no, I mean, yeah, I heard that, yeah, I guess we got to cover that. People are freaked out. Things are buzzing. You're out of the Chili Peppers.
Yeah, when this was booked before that.
Before that.
Yeah.
And then someone like the day after we booked it, like, what's going on with the Chili Peppers? Frusciante's back. You got to interview him. And then I'm like, I got Josh coming. So maybe we'll get some answers. Because I just saw you guys at that benefit I host.
Yes.
At Flea's Music Conservatory.
A few of.
What happened? Was this did you see it? Did you know it was happening?
No, not at all.
Come on, man.
No, complete surprise. No, complete shock, but not a surprise, I guess.
But you're friends with John Frusciante, right?
I was. We hadn't spoken much since I joined the band. We'd sort of...
Really?
Yeah. At all, really. I hadn't spoken to him in 10 years or so until Flea got married in October. We spoke briefly.
But wait, okay. So now... But you guys, well, maybe we should go back. So you got blindsided by this thing?
Yeah.
And now you're out of the gig?
Yeah.
And you got no explanations?
It's pretty simple, and there's no animosity. I mean, the explanation is that John would like to come back and is sort of rekindled a relationship with the band or with Flea musically, and for the last little while, and
behind your back. I
suppose, they
were jamming somewhere.
Yeah, the moment they told me, I said to them I wasn't surprised by this. It sort of crossed my mind once or twice when I heard that John and Flea had hung out, or I didn't know they'd been playing or anything.
Yeah,
but I just in that moment they told me, I sort of had this great sort of wave of love for them, and love for everything I was able to do with them, and I sort of, I put up a barrier between that feeling and anything that might come beyond that point, or any change that my life might go through, or anything.
You stayed
like
in
that.
The gratitude.
Yeah, and I hate sounding like that normally. It's not easy for me to speak of all that stuff, but that's where that's where I'm living, and it feels really good.
Well, how long were you with them?
10 years. It was a perfect sort of decade. It was like October of 2009 till December of
So when you took the gig, I mean, we can go through the history of it, because you did several records with Frusciante, right, when he left.
Yeah.
And
no, when he was in.
So you did his solo projects when he was with the Peppers.
Yeah.
But like, he's on how many? You did one studio record with them, or two? Two studio records.
Two and a half.
2.5.
Yeah, well, yeah, two, and then I brought you one, actually. There's a whole collection of extra stuff we did for the first record I made with them.
All right, well, I listened to some of your solo records. I listened to Dot Hacker, Work and Play, right? Yeah. Those are great records.
Thank you.
And I listened to another record. I'll figure out which one, but you go back in this LA scene for a long time, but I wonder, so when you joined the Peppers, was Frusciante, did that strain your relationship? Is that where?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I mean, but the thing was, we had been friends and we were working together, and when they decided after a long break that they wanted to carry on, and he maintained that he was sort of done with it for that, at that moment. And they asked me to do it. I think he was just a little surprised that they were going to carry on without him. And then I was sort of talking to him as his friend about the fact that the band was carrying on, but they had asked me, so it was sort of a strange position I was holding. Well,
that's interesting that somehow you were the logical step. I mean, you're a Strat guy. They seem to like Strat guys in that position.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I assume the role that I'm given.
Yeah. Is that what it is?
I mean, I guess so. I mean, it's funny. Like, I figured, I was trying not to have this conversation with my steering wheel.
Yeah.
Way over here.
Yeah.
But, I mean, as a guitarist, I sort of became one all of a sudden when I started playing with Bob Forrest when I was younger. You know,
well, I know. Well, Bob was like, I've talked to Bob, and you played in Bicycle Thief, which, you know, and I think he's great.
Yeah, Bob's the greatest.
And so, but where'd you grow up?
Here in the Valley.
Right in the Valley?
Yeah. My parents are from New York, New Jersey, but
Jersey?
My sister and I are the only Californians.
Really? Jersey? Like what part of Jersey?
North Jersey. They're both, my mom was born in Brooklyn, my dad in the Bronx, and they both moved to, you know, the respected, like the Rockland County, my dad, and my mom moved to
Jewish guy?
North Jersey. My dad is. My mom's Irish Catholic.
So half Jew, and the mom's Irish Catholic.
Yeah.
So you didn't grow up with any of the Jew stuff?
No, you know, culturally.
Yeah.
Once in a while. I mean.
Yeah. But what did your dad do? Why did they move out here?
Film and TV. He's in the sound department.
He's a sound guy?
Yeah, he, you know, boom mostly. And when he first started.
He's a boom operator?
Yeah.
He's the guy holding the.
Yeah.
Oh, those guys are important.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got to keep it out of the shot.
Yeah.
So there was like sound equipment at the house?
Yeah, a bit. I mean, you know, he. You know, it's kind of particular. I mean, there was always the Nagra machine over there that looked
Nagra.
great.
None of that stuff's around anymore, man.
No, it's
tapes.
Yeah.
And what did your mom do? She in showbiz?
No. She worked for AT&T until I was born, and then sort of took a long hiatus from working, and then she got a job at my school, my high school.
Doing what?
The dean's office, which was fine because I wasn't in there that often. But
you were not a bad kid.
No,
not a.
But I left anyway. Maybe it hastened.
Do you have brothers and sisters?
I have a younger sister.
Younger sister? Is she in the business?
No.
She does normal life.
I don't know.
She all right?
Yeah, she's great. She helps me out.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, how?
How does she help me out?
Yeah.
Well, you know, I'm on tour all the time, so she runs my life for me.
So that's good, because I thought about having my brother do that, like you know, just employing him.
Yeah.
To manage the personal assistant shit?
Yeah, she manages my life.
Yeah, and then I thought, like, do I really want to deal with my brother that much?
Yeah, well, see, that's the thing. Do I really want to deal with anyone else? So
well, that's nice.
That's
a nice. Well, maybe it's different with a sister. I have no problem with my brother, but my brother up in my business, you know, giving me, you know, like, I don't know. It's just, I think we're good. I think it would strain it.
Very possible.
And we'd end up fighting.
Yeah, very possible.
And then, like, well, that's nice that you give her the job and that she helps you out. So so you didn't finish high school?
No, I left, I guess it was the beginning of 11th grade. I was 15. I'm a younger birthday, so I was.
You were 15?
Yeah.
And you drop out and your mom's in the dean's office and you're like, I'm done with high school?
Yeah, and that was a big problem. But I'm not sure.
Problem.
She may have snuck into the attendance office and done something. I'm not sure.
What do you mean?
You know, because we got a knock from a truant officer once, and then never.
Oh, so you didn't tell
again.
anybody you dropped out?
No, they sort of know if they don't see your name on the attendance records.
Yeah.
But I'm not convinced that she didn't play a role in the truant officer not coming back a second time. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't
so you just stopped going to school?
Yeah. It was kind of the result of a weird attendance policy they had. I didn't set to drop out. I didn't plan on it, but there was a whole sort of absence policy, and then one by one the periods fell.
Yeah.
I slept later and later and later.
But your mom, but she knew you were at home.
Yeah, no, it was a very tense period. I would just try and avoid them.
Fuck you, parents, and like, were y'all fucked up on drugs?
No, not at all. That's when I learned how to play guitar, because
so you're all fucked up on guitar.
Yeah, I started as a drummer.
Can you still do the drums pretty good?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, I play drums like a guitar player who barely plays drums.
Oh, okay. So that's when you start playing guitar, is when you drop out.
Yeah, and I just sort of stayed up all night, and then when I heard them waking up, I'd get in bed.
Really?
Yeah, and somehow I was able to get away.
Stay in your room?
Yeah, most of the time.
And what was the first guitar?
It was a Strat. It was a Sunburst Strat, and
really?
I bought it from someone on the recycler directly opposite the high school I left. A
good one, like American one.
A
solid?
Japanese one from the 80s that had a sort of funny Fender locking tremolo. It was like a Fender's take on the 80s metal tremolo.
Huh. So your first one is a Sunburst Strat.
Yes.
A Japanese
that I broke in a fight with my
80.
mother, slamming it on the ground, probably about school or something like that.
You don't remember?
It was actually about school. I
do
remember. I sort of lashed back at her mother, and
your grandmother.
It exploded, yeah. So in that moment.
In the house.
Yeah.
Volatile.
So, yeah, and I thought the best course of action was to slam my guitar on a marble floor. Broke. went in a box for years and years, and right after I joined the band, I kind of came across it, and I thought, I'll take it to Eric's guitar repair, and he put it together, and I used it all over the first Chili Pepper record. And then when...
Your first Strat.
Yeah, and it brought back from the dead. And then right after that, I think it was on the first tour I was doing with them, the band was inducted into the Hall of Fame, and that's where it is now. That
guitar.
Yeah.
The first one that you broke on the floor because you're mad at your grandma.
Yeah. Oh, she was mad at me.
Oh, yeah. And it's reconstructed. So you're in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
But everybody in the Peppers is. You just have...
No. Wow. I don't think so, but I don't know. I don't know.
Really? That's how that works?
Yeah, there was, I'm not sure.
Sorry, buddy.
No.
It sounds like there's some points of contention here and there. Yeah. So when you're starting out, though, like, who are you listening to? Because, I mean, you play in a sort of a way now. Like, I like the way you play because it's sort of, I don't know if you would call it psychedelic or ethereal or like something, it feels like you're trying to get somewhere out there with the playing. You know what I mean? Like there's that dude, what's his name? Greenwood from Radiohead.
Yeah.
He does it. Like, I remember there's some older, some of the Robert Fripp solo shit, kind of goes out there, and there's some other kind of dudes that are kind of travelers with technology and effects and whatnot and just sort of sustain and stuff. But it seems to be the world you want to occupy.
Yeah, well, I play like someone that didn't grow up playing guitar. So, and when I started playing with Bob Forrest, it was, he had just, I think he had less than a year sober, wanted to do music again. I was the 17-year-old kid around the corner from his girlfriend's parents' house.
In the Valley. But you'd been playing? I thought you'd kind of locked in. You just started. Oh, you were just started playing a couple years ago.
I was 17. Yeah, I'd been playing in the bedroom, not going to school.
But who were your heroes at that point? Like, who were you trying to?
Well, I grew up all the music I liked as a kid. It's starting from the Beatles and the Beach Boys, and then when I'm sort of 8, 9, there's the Guns N' Roses,
right?
Motley Crue.
What do you think of Slash as a guitar player?
He's one of my favorites.
Yeah,
I absolutely love him.
He's kind of like a monster on there, isn't he?
Yeah.
Like, how the fuck does he even find that shit?
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
It is crazy. Yeah, I mean, he was there. Guns N' Roses got in the same year as the Chili Peppers to the Hall of Fame, so I was standing next to him.
Oh, really?
Playing.
Did you talk to him?
No, not much. But,
he's a nice guy, man.
Yeah, no, I've only said hi to him. Duff, I've become friendly with him. He's an amazing guy.
Yeah. So you kind of know how to play guitar?
Well, I'm just starting out. I'm figuring out records by ear in the bedroom, but then through Bob Forrest and sort of.
His girlfriend's parents lived around the corner?
Bob's girlfriend at the time, brother, was one of my best friends, still to this day.
Oh, okay.
And at the time that we're 17, he's 3 years older than me. So we just, used to talk about music and smoke cigarettes. And
her brother or Bob?
The brother.
Oh, okay.
But then, Bob wanted to put something together, and I was the guy around the corner, and I had,
1 year sober, Bob Forrest.
Yeah.
And he was friends with the Peppers and all those guys. He was in that world, right?
Yeah, in that
what
world.
Was that world? Who was that world at that time? Because
in the 80s.
Yeah, because I remember talking to Bob, and I know that he was close to those guys to the point where they had done some work together, even, right?
Yeah, I mean, lived together, ran around town together. Thelonious Monster, Chili Peppers, Fishbone, Jane's Addiction,
right?
All these bands.
So,
and then born out of there was a kind of broader punk scene or whatever you want to call it.
A lot of heroin.
It was a lot of everything.
Yeah, but were you aware of all that stuff going on at that time?
Yeah, not when I was really young, but the minute I turned 11, I think, in 1991, started middle school, and that's when Nirvana, Pearl Jam, and that whole thing happened, and that for a person that age was everything to me, because I thought, whoa, there's a scene of people playing in bands together. And since then, or probably before that, it's all I ever wanted was to be in a band. And have play music with your friends that you love.
Yeah. So Bob, so he just finds you. What was that exchange?
Well, he
because that's a good record. There's only one Bicycle Thief record, right?
Yeah, only one. We've threatened to do another one for years and years, but now maybe we will. I have a little more time.
You got some time, and you're a Hall of Famer. So you're a Hall of Famer with some time. It's only uphill from here, buddy. Yeah. But okay, so how does he approach you? How does that happen?
He leaves a message on my answering machine, and I just remember going to get together, and he had a couple songs he had started to write, and we just started to play. And it's sort of, now that I've known him for over 20 years, he just jumps in. Yeah. And I remember we had a show booked, within a month, and it was billed as Thelonious Monster. And it's, time is making more sense to me now, because it wasn't that long after Thelonious was around and he was newly sober. So we played a show, me, him, and Dick Stenny from Thelonious Monster. And
as Thelonious Monster?
I think that's what was on the bill, because there was no Bicycle Thief yet. We hadn't written any songs together.
Right.
But I remember thinking to myself that night, shit, I'm a guitar player now.
Yeah.
And then that wasn't really something I would admit to until then.
He writes, I like his songs. Right?
Yeah, he's incredible.
He's like a really good songwriter. I don't know why he's not more known somehow.
Yeah, it'll happen.
Yeah, I mean, is it still like that last record he did was sort of really dark and fucked up, and that song about not being able to eat his favorite cereal anymore.
That's the one. That's on the Bicycle Thief album.
That one's on there.
Yeah,
because he did an acoustic-y version of it on the last album.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's the one. And John Frusciante does a solo on that album with me, and that's sort of right after I had met him.
So Frusciante is he in the Peppers then?
When I met Bob and started playing with Bob and kind of joining the group of people, the greater group of people that have been around playing, John was not yet in the band. He was just sort of reemerging from a dark period where he wasn't in the band.
But he had been in the band before?
Yeah, in 88, 89, 90.
Right, and then he disappeared into a heroin hole?
Yeah, eventually.
Whatever. The void.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He left the band in 92.
Yeah.
And then, so he rejoined the Chili Peppers, a year or so after I started playing with Bob. And I think maybe even before the Chili Pepper album, Californication, came out, John and I had started becoming friends, and he came and played that solo. And
with Bob,
we just started hanging out all the time.
And you were playing with Bob?
Yeah.
And he came and played the solo, and then you guys started hanging out?
Started hanging out. I had become pretty obsessed with his first solo album, which was put out in 94.
Which one was that?
It's called Neandra Lades.
Yeah.
And usually just a T-shirt. It's kind of two things together.
Did he, he was sort of, you liked the way he played. You liked
I loved the way he played. I loved the way he wrote songs. I loved the way he sang. That record is sort of, it's funny because I came across something recently where he had said something like that album was never meant to be released. So it was just sort of a demo or something like that.
Yeah. What about that record was so incredible?
Just that, I think it was just made for no one to hear, or just sort of made for sort of a pure audience of himself, or people he knew. So
and what was it like? What was it about the way he played that was like so fucking compelling to you? Because he was sort of he got out there.
Well, I mean, he was. He just has an incredible inherent sort of sound that comes from his fingers, and he's very skilled and very. He's a student of the guitar, and he knows how to. He created a sound of his own,
right?
Taking a lot from. All the amazing guitar players.
But isn't weird that how somebody can take it doesn't matter how fast or what people know for them to have their own sound. I was just talking about that to someone the other day, that because we were talking about John Merrick, because I went to see Dead and Company because my brother wanted to see him, so I got us hooked up. And I don't know who he is as a guitar player, but he's a great guitar player. But I don't know exactly what his tone is or what his sound is. But there are some people that are they have much less virtuosity, who I can identify immediately.
Right, yeah.
Because of their tone and their feel.
Yeah, that's something I would say I play like someone who didn't grow up playing guitar, and I just sort of figured it out as I went along, and I always felt like I was playing catch up.
Right.
And playing with Bob, and, just, I guess, influences coming out in my playing, but I'm trying to,
No, I think you have a singular sound. I think that, are you saying that, because, there wasn't a lot of you didn't, a lot of people spend time mimicking people.
Yeah, or just learning actual,
I never did that.
Finger exercises and scales
did
and stuff.
You?
No, not at all. I just, played songs. And then I played with Bob until I was probably about 20, 21. And
on the road, how many records did he do?
We just did the one, but being friends with the Chili Peppers, we did 2 opening tours for them as the first of 3. One was with Foo Fighters, one was with Stone Temple Pilots.
Really?
Yeah, just sort of on that Californication tour when they were hitting it hard and going every corner of the country.
And you did like a lot of dates?
Yeah, we did 2 3-week legs.
So you're really getting your full immersion.
Full immersion, which is why when I ultimately joined later on, it was sort of, everything felt kind of natural. I've known everyone in their touring family for years.
Right, you weren't a new entity.
I knew how it worked.
Right. But like that first spot, that's kind of a rough spot. People are trickling in.
Yeah.
No one gives a fuck.
Yeah. But, it's still, for me, I'm 20, 21, and I barely look out at the crowd anyway. I know all that. I know people are getting their beers and finding their seats. But, just that opportunity to do that. And
so the relationship with John, though, was he, like, showing you shit?
I wouldn't, no, I mean, not specifically showing me shit, but just through... the relationship we were building as friends. I mean, he was hugely influential, just, on many levels.
Is he older than you?
Yeah, he's 9 years older than me. When he joined the Chili Peppers, he was sort of the 10-year younger than them group.
Right.
And then I'm the 10-year younger than him group, or 9 years. So, yeah, I mean, I'm 18 years younger than the other Chili Peppers.
Are you? Like, I thought, so they're a little older than me? Like, I thought they were on I'm 56, so they're in that zone.
Same. Yeah, they were born in 62, 61.
63. Oh, yeah.
I'm 79.
Wow. So how does it evolve, though, that you tour with them, but you don't, and then you go out and do your own thing?
Well, my own thing, so having the dream of always being in a band and sort of starting the thing with Bob, but it wasn't a band so much. It was he and I, and then we got a couple guys to help play it live. But when I stopped playing with Bob, that would have been the moment to start something, something like that. And that was, right at the beginning of my 20s, and I just sort of spent my whole 20s touring with other bands, amazing bands. Chili Peppers were on tour. Yeah. I had a suspended driver's license, and Frusciante was living at the Chateau Marmont.
Yeah.
But he wasn't checking out because it would have been too much of, to come back and find somewhere new. So I stayed there for 2.5 weeks and recorded basically an album there.
With him?
No, on my own.
Yeah.
Because I had nowhere to go.
At the Chateau?
Yeah, because I had nowhere to go and I just had my cassette 8-track and no license. So I stayed up, just recording all night and just made basically a record and but no one ever heard it. And then at the end of that stay there, Gibby Haynes had called Bob maybe and called John or and said we need a guitar player who can also play drums. So I went out with the
Butthole Surfers
for a month and a half.
That must have been crazy.
Yeah,
I have no sense of what those dudes are like other than the music, which is its own thing. Were they touring on a record? Was it
they were touring
Hairway to Steven?
No, way after that. They was touring on a record that was. It was called Weird Revolution, I think, and
I guess Hairway to Steven is something that came out when I was younger. That was
this was
like their biggest record or something. Like they had done a bunch of weirdo records, and then Hairway to Steven was sort of like, what is?
Well, then they had the massive hit in the early '90s called Pepper.
Right,
and then I toured on the record after that.
And Pepper, right? That wasn't on Hairway to Steven.
No, that was on Electric Larryland.
Larryland,
if I remember right.
Oh, I can't remember the song now. The Pepper song. What was the chorus of it?
I don't mind the sun sometimes.
Oh yeah. That was a good song.
Yeah, it's great. I think I still have the backing track CD backup in my guitar case.
There were some real psychedelic weirdos, right?
Yeah, not so much when I was touring with them.
What were they? Just old timers out to making a buck?
Well,
What?
I mean, yeah, some version of that. I think they hadn't been a band in a while, so they got back together, made a record. They were sort of, I don't know.
How many of them were there when you were touring?
Well, it was Gibby, Paul, King, and then they had a bass player.
Okay.
At the time, who wasn't an original.
And did you have to learn the shit?
I learned the shit. I learned the set. We played the same set. It was an enormously efficient rehearsal schedule. We would get together at 12:30 p.m., play the set once, break, come back at 8 p.m., do it again. And so I got on a schedule. I was living in a Days Inn in Austin, and I would stay up late watching TV, playing guitar, practicing, doing whatever. And I'd wake up pretty much 12:15.
Yeah.
Get up.
Go to the place.
Get to the car. They pick me up. Yeah, and I did that September 11th. 2001, walked downstairs. Good morning, guys. Drinking coffee, and they look back at me and they're like, "Do you know what's what?" And they said, "You don't know. The Trade Center's gone. Pentagon. You don't know." So that's how I had to go to rehearsal and do a whole hour and a half rehearsal until I could see what was going on.
Really?
Yeah. And then I went back to my hotel and basically saw the birth of the news ticker.
Yeah.
And was in Texas for a month.
Wow. So you guys had to play that day?
We rehearsed, yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. I think we did go back that night and rehearse, yeah.
Did you have to drum?
I did stand-up double drums.
Oh.
King played drums, but I kind of did what they had in the 80s.
And now, when you're doing that, so that's your next gig after Forrest was you got pulled into the Butthole Surfers reunion tour.
Yeah.
And yet you wanted to start your own thing. So what happened to that thing you made at the Chateau?
Nothing. I remember the bass player of that Buttholes tour kind of compressed it and quote unquote mastered it the day before we left, and I just listened to it on my own. I gave it to my a friend or two, and that's it. It still lives in a couple of iPods, but
you don't have it. You don't have it.
Oh, I have it. Yeah. But no, I just re-recorded one of the songs, actually. I was gonna, there's still a couple of songs on it that I love, but I mean, I just, so developing as a songwriter or as a frontman, I mean, I went from being a kid drummer to someone who's barely considering themselves a guitar player to now, wondering, do I start a band? Do I sing? But then I basically lived my dream throughout my 20s with other bands, kind of.
Well, what was the next one? What was after the Butthole Surfer tour? The 9/11 Butthole Surfer.
Then after that, I did some stuff around town. I was really a big fan of Jon Brion at the time. I used to go to Largo all the time.
Oh, yeah?
And he, through a friend of his...
That's a different world than it's sort of weird, the L.A. worlds of music. That's definitely not the Chili Pepper world.
No, not at all.
But it is its own world.
Yeah. How that happened, this playing with John Brion happened because after I'd stopped playing with Bob and the Bicycle Thief, we actually had our record re-released in some funny way. Yeah. And there was a record release party at the Viper Room, and Bob had asked me to do it because a sort of older Wallflowers-y Counting Crows type band was assembled for him that he didn't know, was just put together. And he said, "Come on, would you do it? I mean, it's these guys I don't know. Some of the guys from those bands."
Right.
So I said, sure, I know the songs. And we had a brief fight, that we mended pretty quickly. So I came and I did it, and I didn't bring a case, and I brought my guitar in off the street, jumped on, played, and left. And the drummer that night was a guy named Dan McCarroll, who I used to see play with Jon Brion all the time at Largo, week after week. So a year after that Bicycle Thief show at the Viper Room, I got a call from him saying, "Hey, remember me? I played with you a year ago, Viper Room. I'm friends with Jon Brion. We're doing this rock band residency at Spaceland," because he did the weekly Largo thing, but they had asked him if he would do a band version, kind of play his songs, but with other guys, or like a rock thing. Yeah. And I was shocked, and I was like, I'm not going to go be the second guitarist to him. He was one of my favorites. He's an incredible player, and everything in my being told me to say no, thank you, but I didn't, and that's kind of how I've just lived all. I just
but like, what'd you learn from working with John? Because he's sort of a notorious genius guy.
Yeah, I mean, I just sort of,
And he was playing guitar, not piano?
He was playing both, but mostly guitar, because that was the point, to just be a rock band, guitar-based rock band. So we would trade solos, and, I'm obviously nowhere near the guitar player he is, but I think he liked in me that I had gone to see him at Largo so many times. I knew his songs by watching him, and his record wasn't out yet. So when we got together to rehearse the day before the first show or something, I'm playing all his songs from watching him.
Oh, you knew him.
So I think it touched him in that way. So we became friends. That was 2002. Then I think,
Are you still friends with him?
I haven't talked to him in a while, but just from
I just saw him at Largo. I did a show at Largo a month or so ago.
I've been meaning. I don't think I've seen John play at the new Largo, if that tells you how long it's been.
He played piano on a thing. It was a Judd Apatow show. That I was not part of that whole scene. I'd come into New York back then. I'd come in from New York. I moved here in 2002, the second time, but I was not part of that whole music trip. It was like Amy Mann and Jon Brion and Fiona Apple and Ben Montench sometimes, right? Is that the
Elliot
crew?
Smith a lot.
Elliot Smith at that time, right? Did you play with that guy?
I'm trying to remember if I ever shared the stage, because after I met and became friends with John, I would try and, any
at the original Largo.
Yeah, I would go up and play drums a little bit or play some guitar, and I feel like there was some Elliot crossover, but...
And was there comics around then?
I don't remember. Yeah.
The comedians, like Zach and Paul F. Tompkins.
Yeah, Zach, that's the first time I saw Zach. I saw Paul all the time, Greg Barron.
Yeah, Greg Barron. I don't know what's up with him. I haven't seen him in a while.
He did something with Bob Forrest a while ago, a podcast.
Probably. Maybe. Oh, yeah. That's probably right. Okay, so there you did it again. So you're hanging out with Jon Brion, but when's the next recording stuff that you did?
Well, I didn't do a ton of recording from that point on. After John, maybe through people I met there, I got a call from Beck. So.
Oh, really?
In 2003, I went on tour with Beck. And now at this point, I'd really done Bicycle Thief touring and Butthole Surfers touring. And now I'm going on tour with Beck, and that's another step up in sort of venue size. And
you're playing with Beck,
playing guitar in Beck's band, and
which tour?
It was kind of the third iteration of the Sea Change period. I think he went out with Flaming Lips first. Then he went out with just Smokey Hormel, who's an amazing guitar player, and he was the last person to play guitar with him at that point. So I'm like, I'm filling Smokey's shoes. What the fuck? I can't do this. And but I went and I got that, and that band at the time was, it was an amazing band. I'm not putting myself in it, but Jay Bellarose played drums, Steve McDonald played bass, Greg Kirsten, keyboard player, and Beck. And we all got on incredibly well. And I'm only 22 or 23, and I'm hanging out with all these older people, which I've always sort of done.
Right.
And even though I look young, but I'm just sort of in and amongst all these incredible people, and I'm living my dream.
It's the dream, playing with Beck in the big rooms.
Just, playing music with people you like.
Now, I have to assume that you're picking up things, like this is part of the evolution of your sound. Because how big's the pedal board at that point?
It usually was just as big as it had to be to do what I was doing.
Now it's pretty big, right?
It is big, yeah, but if you look at, when I joined the Chili Peppers, John's was pretty big when he left. So I was kind of doing what I was covering my bases. I have such a aversion to any of the modern jiggery pokery that you can do with live, like amp modelers or MIDI effects or anything. So,
what do they do?
What, those things?
Yeah.
Well, they allow you to have lots of sounds with very little gear.
Oh, you like to have the thing that does the one thing.
Yeah, and tap dance all over it and smash it and unplug the power and look at your guitar tech and watch them come out and try and fix it in front of a lot of people. I've seen you
do that.
Yeah.
You get pretty athletic with the pedal board.
Yeah.
Okay, so after Beck, then you're playing with John.
Yeah, in that period, we had started making records together. We would hang out anytime he was off.
How'd you not get fucked up on drugs?
Well, none of those people were at that time.
They were all sober.
Yeah, and also, I had my period a little later, but
oh, you did?
But not that bad. And doing heroin and doing that kind of stuff. It's funny the stories we tell ourselves about what's acceptable and what's not. But
so you just did heroin socially?
Well, not that. No, I never went there. But it's just it felt a little ridiculous to be younger, see what happens,
right,
and go. That's good for me. But having said that, other things,
right?
You dive right in.
But you were able, I guess by certainly having a relationship with Bob and seeing the sort of. The destruction it reaped on, those bands, that scene got kind of leveled with that shit.
Yeah.
But everybody got sober, man.
Yeah. The ones who,
the ones who are alive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're playing with John, and you're doing these, his trippy records.
Yeah. Well, we were hanging out all the time, kind of listening to records, practicing vocal harmonies, and just kind of being friends. And we decided to make a record together, and it sort of turned into his solo album. Shadows Collide with People, because that was the group of songs he had written at that time. We started, and I was playing drums, and we had done a lot of demos.
Yeah,
and it was the first time I'd ever really recorded drums in a proper studio situation, and it was so much for me to handle. I barely play drums anymore at this point.
Right.
So we called Chad Smith to the rescue, and then this freed me up to play bass, and then all of a sudden we were tracking as a 3-piece, and that's how that record came about, the Shadows Collide with People album, and we had a great time doing that.
How good are you on bass?
Oh, I don't know. I can do it.
You can do it?
Yeah.
But it wasn't your instrument.
Well, no, it wasn't my instrument, but I love playing bass. And the next touring gig that I had was initially sold to me as I would be the bass player.
Right.
And it was with PJ Harvey. And I get a call from her, another answering machine message.
Wait, how'd she find you?
She found me through Vincent Gallo.
Well, did you hang out with Vincent? Did you play?
Yeah, I played with him. And that was through Frusciante. They'd become friends. They worked together.
Him and Gallo?
Yeah, he did a video with John for a song.
Like Gallo was this guy that was just around all the time and was like, he was this sort of barometer of some sort of cool. But I never really knew what he did, really.
Well, he does lots of stuff.
I know he makes movies, he makes music, he dresses a certain way, he looks like he does.
He had been asked to do a couple gigs in Japan where he has a particularly strong following.
Uh-huh.
So he put a little band together, and it was myself and Carla Azar. Has she been in it? She was in a band called Autolux.
Yeah.
Played with Jack White recently. But the three of us, I think I had met Carla around that time. It was great. And we did 4 shows in Japan. It was like touring with the Beatles, sort of, people
really?
Banging on the cars. Yeah, Vincent's really big over there.
Yeah, and that was just another side project you did. You went to Japan with Gallo.
Yeah, and then I did it again a year later. We did the Fuji Festival. But yeah, Vincent gave Polly my number, and she left a message. And the original plan was she had started playing again as a 3-piece, which I had seen her do when I was out with Beck. We played back-to-back at a festival in France. And that was her original, first 2 records are 3-piece.
Dry.
Her on guitar and
Rid
of Me. Yeah, and it was the original drummer Rob Ellis and Mick Harvey from the Bad Seeds on bass. So she calls me and says, I want to go out as a trio again. Mick has, commitment to the Bad Seeds. Would you play bass? And I was, yes, I will.
Yeah.
So we started a friendship, and I was going to play bass. And then over the course of the next maybe 4, 5, 6 months, she had seen The Fall play. And at the time, The Fall had a bass player called Ding. And she decided that he was a great bass player, and she didn't want to play guitar. So I got moved to guitar, which was fine. So I played guitar, and then I actually wound up playing double drums.
See, she just pulled the bass player from The Fall?
Pulled him, straight out of The Fall.
Yeah. He quit that band? That band's gone through a lot of people.
They go through, I don't know if he officially had to quit. I think he just sort of stepped aside. He actually maintained a great relationship with Marc Smith until the end, which was rare.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah, just to kind of, especially to leave the band.
Are you a Fall fan?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know a lot about them, but I'm playing catch up with a lot of those bands, but I've been getting a lot of their records, and I can see how, it would integrate into your trip.
I had through that, my then bandmate, I got to sit in the room and hang out with Marc in the background and just sort of hope he didn't focus in on me and say, "Who the fuck is this?"
Yeah. But he didn't?
He didn't. In fact, he talked about me once, referred to me as the American. And I was sitting across the room,
and
he didn't know it was me.
So did you record with PJ or no?
No, it was just touring. We did
how many dates? A lot of dates?
Yeah, I mean, at the time it felt really long, but it was actually only, over the course of a year. I think we started rehearsing in March, April, and then we were done by December.
And what album was she touring? What was it?
It was called Her. 04.
Yeah.
But we toured a lot. It's funny that it was only, 10 months or so. We went to Australia twice. We were playing a lot.
Do you keep in touch with these people?
Some of them.
It's weird, right?
I keep in touch with most of the people in that band. My guitar tech that I met on that tour came with me to the Chili Peppers.
So like a guitar tech, is that like, he's your guy?
Well, yeah, I mean, he and I just became great friends on that PJ Harvey tour. I was the only American, and at the time I was obsessed with England and all things English, and I was just trying to survive in the sea of Englishness.
Yeah.
And, they sort of accepted me and gave me an honorary,
What, British?
Yeah, whatever that
badge?
means. Yeah, I was
knighted you?
I was sufficiently aware of the right humor and music that I got in. But I'm in touch with most people from.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
You don't have any enemies?
No, I don't think so.
That's good. So outside of the Chili Peppers and those Frusciante records, you've done the Dot Hacker records and the Pluralone records?
Yeah. Yeah, well, because I was just touring, and that was the thing. I was getting, after the PJ Harvey tour, I did some, 2005, I tried to start a band with a guy here in L.A. that I'd known for a while. That didn't take off, and then I was just sort of hanging around. I toured with that band Gnarls, Barkley.
Yeah.
Because I'm friends with Brian Burton, Danger Mouse Brian.
Yeah.
I did a record with him and
Yeah.
Martina Topley Bird, who sang with Tricky.
Yeah. I remember Tricky. What happened to that guy?
He's around.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Martina, she's on his first couple of records, and she's got one of the greatest voices. And she was making a solo record, and it was pretty much just Danger Mouse, Brian, myself, and her.
Yeah.
And then when they went to put the Gnarls Barkley live band together, it happened pretty quickly, I think. And the guitarist who wound up touring, who's become one of my closest friends, Clint Walsh, he had a prior engagement, so he couldn't do the first show. Something like that. So Brian asked me to fill in. So I hung out, went to rehearsal, made the trip to Scotland. We played 4 songs. So we, played Crazy live for the first time in the UK. It was the biggest song of that year. And then, went home. Like, thanks. That was fun. 4 songs.
Must have been a huge crowd.
It was. Yeah. It was a BBC thing. So then, but that was it. Still, kind of, I'm not sure what I'm doing at this point. And then I started playing with Sparks. Do you know that band?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're an LA band though, right? They're old guys now.
Yeah, they've been around a while. That they have an amazing career, and I
never understood their music.
Well, it's changed a lot.
I know, I've got a bunch of their records because they're a project of mine. Like I have a bunch of records downstairs, and I know there's certain people that they're a unique thing and that have a very specific audience, and I have the records and I try every once in a while, but somehow my brain doesn't know where to put it.
Well, they have a lot of different periods, and that was what was interesting about them. They have different kinds of fans in different countries because they had hits in England in the 70s, France in the 80s, Germany in the 90s. In Russia, they're this crazy cult band because Ron wore his mustache a little close to another
Hitler mustache.
Yeah. So for that reason alone, they were put on this blacklist in Russia. So because of that, all the sort of against the against the grain people sought out Sparks. So when I played with them in Russia in February of 2006, it was again not like the Beatles, but there were people that were like.
Do they like the music or just the mustache?
Well, the mustache is gone now, but I think they like the music too.
Like, what's your favorite Sparks record?
Propaganda, maybe.
Yeah.
But I like a lot of them because then they have a record from the late 70s called Number One in Heaven that they did with Giorgio Moroder, which is all synthesizers and disco sounding. It's like, sounds like Donna Summers and that stuff. And then
maybe I have a hard time with bands that do that kind of like that. I don't know if that's true.
Well, the thing was they were never a band. They had bands at times, but it was always pretty much just the brothers,
right?
Ron and Russell, and they're probably working right now. They work harder than most people, and they're just always going. And I mean, when they first started and they had the massive hit, "This Town Ain't Big Enough for the Both of Us" in England, they had a rock band. I think Queen opened for them. It was like they had a thing, and somehow had this massive hit that we would play it in England now. It's like people playing
a classic.
Smells Like Teen Spirit or
right.
something.
Yeah.
It's
and you went out with them for a while.
I went out with them. Yeah. Well, it was funny because I went out with them because I had become really good friends with Steve McDonald from Red Cross.
Yeah.
And he was in the Beck band with me.
Right.
And then he said, come on, do this
Red
tour
Cross,
with me.
That's a good band.
Yeah. So I'm on tour with Sparks. We're in London on a layover on our way to Russia.
Yeah.
And I go see my friend Brian, Danger Mouse Brian, and I had become chummy with some of the guys when I did the fill-in a few months before. And the keyboard player whispers in my ear, I left the band today. I don't do it anymore. And then 10 minutes later, Brian says, the keyboard, my name. He said, left the band today. So I think there was an open bar that night, and I said, I'll do it.
Yeah.
And I remember flying. We flew to Russia the next morning. I remember walking around. It was crazy. The World Cup was going on, and I'm in St. Petersburg.
But you don't play keyboard, do you? You do.
So I told myself that when I asked myself what I had said the night before. So I figured it out. And the guy who had done it prior to me was an incredible player.
So you just figured out the riffs and for the songs. And
I know how to play keyboards enough. I know how to play chords, and I actually write on piano a lot these days.
Yeah.
And but I'm not a
right. I get it. Yeah. So you're doing all this stuff, and you're still kind of hanging out with John. And so how does I guess we're getting close to the Peppers, aren't we?
We're getting close, yeah, because Gnarls Barkley is what led to... So Gnarls, being maybe not through label, whatever, they get... they start opening for the Chili Peppers in the Stadium Arcadium period.
Oh, yeah.
And this is great for me because I'm friends with them and I know their tour, everyone on it.
So everyone's hanging out.
Yeah, so I'm, I'm
right.
in there. And how did that happen? There was a cancellation because of a snowstorm. So there was a makeup show on one of the legs, and Gnarls decided at the last minute not to go down to Mexico.
Yeah.
But because I'm friends with the Chili Peppers, and I was like, you guys are crazy. Mexico City is the greatest place to play.
Is it?
Fuck you guys. Yeah, I'm going to go with them. It's the best. So
just to hang out?
Yeah. So I go, and I hadn't seen John in a while, because I'd been on tour and stuff.
Yeah.
So we hung out. It was fun. Played. Then they had to make up the show in Oklahoma City that had been snowed at the beginning, but Gnarls isn't here anymore, so they had another person open the show. But I'm hanging out, nothing to do, so I play on stage with them, because they, at the time, on the Stadium Arcadium album, there was lots of extra guitar, lots of overdubs John was doing.
Yeah.
And, so there were songs that they couldn't really play because there was too much to cover for him alone. So I played a song or two that night, song, I think. And, on the flight home from that, I think that was the first time I had flown into Van Nuys Airport, which is right where I grew up.
Private plane?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on the plane home, someone had come up with the idea, maybe, I don't remember, maybe Chad, to ask me to come out on the rest of the tour because it was fun. Maybe my demeanor lightened the mood a bit. I don't know. But, and then I was able to...
So you did that?
To cover the extra guitar parts, do some background vocals, play some keys. So so that's 2007. So I went out with them the rest of their tour, 2007, through the end of it.
Yeah.
And after they finished that tour, they had a very clear 2-year hiatus. And, they said to everyone that works with them, don't talk to us. We're
really
putting it on, we're shutting it down for 2 years. So
and they honored that.
They did, yeah. Flea went to music school. Anthony was a new dad at the time. John was always, making music, and Chad started another band. He went on a whole tour in that period. So 2 years, nothing. And then as that 2-year period came to a close, the other guys were like, "All right," and John still wasn't up for getting back in and doing it. So
because he was into his own shit.
Yeah, and he was, again, he's one of the most amazing. He has one of the most amazing work ethics, and he's incredible like that. So, he was doing tons of great music, and they weren't done, and they wanted to keep going, and I was there, and that's when that started, and that was 2009, July 20th. Is when Flea asked me. Then they were still kind of tying up some vacations and stuff. And October, right after I turned 30, is when we played for the first time. And it was
in
crazy.
In a rehearsal space?
Yeah, in the alley out in the valley.
Yeah.
Which is where they had written Blood Sugar, I think.
Right.
And it was amazing. All of a sudden, I'm in this band.
What is it? Were you putting together a touring set?
No, I joined as a full-time member and a writer. And
so they were working on new material.
Yeah, because they were shut down for 2 years. Yeah, so it was new album time. And, I hadn't been playing guitar much. Like, I'd been doing keyboards and Gnarls, Barkley, or I was writing songs on piano. I was messing around with synthesizers, playing drums, playing a little guitar.
And had you done any of your own solo albums yet?
Nothing released. No, I had
Pluralone
home recordings.
Right.
No. In the time the Chili Peppers were in their 2-year break, I had sworn off touring with other people because that was an amazing experience. But that's when I, was hitting it like that. I'm in these amazing touring situations, and I'm surrounded by incredible people all the time, but I'm kind of miserable. Yeah. And why is that? Because I'm, I've always wanted to be in my own band or write my own songs and do that. And I'm hiding in these other people's projects. But like I said, I was sort of living the dream. I'm kind of doing bigger and bigger venues. Yeah. But
do you feel like no one really knows who you are?
Yeah, and which is, that's a funny thing because I don't know how much of that I care about. I want to write songs and I want to play. I want to have a band. I've wanted it since I was a kid.
Right.
But I'm starting to realize more and more and more that I am hiding from taking that responsibility, and I'm sort of, it's a lot easier to tour with other people. It's
it's not on you.
But I'm literally
just
saying,
do your part.
Yeah, I'm literally saying like, this is killing me. I gotta stop.
So this is your dark period.
Yeah, but still kind of getting it done and playing, and doing these tours and making friends and making lasting friendships. But that's when I put Dot Hacker together, and I swore that this is, finally I'm going to do my band. I'm going to stop being stop being scared. I'm going to write songs. Yeah, and Clint Walsh from Gnarls' touring band, Eric Gardner from Gnarls' second touring band, and a bass player named Jonathan Hischke that I'd met through some friends. I convinced him to move to LA. We started Dot Hacker, and that was, and it was only, we named it that because we needed a name, because my friend who I met Bob Forrest through, whose sister dated Bob, he was booking the Troubadour. He gave us a show there. Yeah. Dot Hacker was Eric, the drummer's grandma.
Dot Hacker was her name?
Dorothy Hacker. Yeah. So, we, everyone was sort of, is that our name? And then somehow it just stuck. I liked calling it the Dots.
Yeah.
But yes, but I'm still sort of figuring out how to be a singer and a front person and write songs, and I'd sort of come out of being in the shadows.
Do you have a following with that band? I mean, are people getting on board?
There's a couple, especially that band was basically put on hold because shortly after I started working,
the Peppers.
Yeah. So, but I was able to, and because of the opportunities the Chili Peppers, brought to me, I was able to sort of keep that band going the whole time.
Yeah.
And every time we had, a couple months off, I was able to do another Dot Hacker album. We didn't get to tour it. We played a couple little tours. We opened for Blonde Redhead once. We went to Japan for 2 shows, but we weren't able to be a band.
Right.
So, yeah, that was, but I mean, through being in the Chili Peppers, people have heard it. Not a ton of people.
Right.
But that's the funny thing. It's like, again, though.
I like your label.
Oh, yeah, they're great. Yeah, and that ORG.
Yeah.
Yeah, Andrew. He's the savior.
They sent me a bunch of stuff when they sent me your stuff. But they have a very eclectic sort of reissue taste.
Yeah,
they do a really good job with them.
Yeah.
Like they're nice, heavy vinyl. It sounds like the mix is really good on all this old shit. They're using the real shit.
Yeah, they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And that was a funny thing because we had made the first Dot Hacker album 2 years before I think it came out, and then Steve McDonald again, who I was friends with, he was working at
the Red Cross guy.
Yeah, he was working at Warner Brothers at the time. He played it for a guy down the hall who was at ORG.
Yeah,
the guy Andrew who runs ORG now was kind of assisting this guy Jeff, and Jeff liked the record. He knew that I was in the Chili Peppers now, and he knew that if anything happened with the record, it was all in house more or less because they were based out of Warner Brothers building. So they decided to put the record out. We didn't think Dot Hacker album would ever come out or there'd be any life for it. I'm in the Chili Peppers now, and so then that first album, which I brought for you, if you
which one? Let me see it.
This one,
the first Dot Hacker record.
Yeah, this came out right as I sort of
This is the first one.
Yeah, and that's right as the first Chili Pepper album I did came out.
I think I got a later one. I don't know if he sent me this one.
Yeah, here, I brought you all of them. This is my whole,
whole catalog. Yeah. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
And this is your Chili Pepper record, The Getaway.
Well, the 2 of them there.
These 2.
Actually, those last 3, yeah.
These last 3.
Those are the 2 records that are official records, and the one in the middle is the collection of extra songs.
Well, thanks, man.
Yeah.
So, working with those guys, I mean, being in that band, because you were in that band, did you feel that you were able to sort of carve out your own trip? I mean, they've had several guitarists, but did you feel like, you were able to leave your mark on that band?
I hope so.
Because when I noticed when you played with them, only the couple of few songs I saw you do, and they were songs generally that, were recorded, you didn't record with them, but you sound like yourself.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing I was sort of unaware of the whole time. I never read the internet anyway, but the beginning, the first tour I did with them, I'm sure there was lots of people talking about, comparing me to John and all this. And, I think I spent probably far too much time thinking about that. And, I did all these tours in my 20s and never able to really develop my own style and play other people's stuff. But I play like I play, and, I learned from who I learned from, or I learned by playing along to what I learned to play along to. So there's got to be, a style there.
Sure.
And, I think, but again, now I'm in the Chili Peppers. I'm playing the songs that have been recorded and
anthems,
famous the world over. Yeah. So I'm trying to be respectful, and I'm trying to. I can't help but just be me.
Right.
And so hopefully, if this change, John coming back and me leaving had happened 5 years ago, half my time in, it probably would have destroyed me.
Right.
Because it would have confirmed all the things that my mind loves to tell me, that I suck and I'm worthless and all those things. But, I think now I've done two. We were over a year into writing another album, and so I've done a lot of writing with them. I've done.
So there's work that hasn't been recorded yet.
That's just going to go away, I guess.
Wow.
Which is, that kind of...
So they liked writing with you. Obviously, you guys were doing stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I think it was, it's a funny thing. I think it was all positive. It comes down to the history that,
Sure.
It's a funny position to be in, to be the person that, for a second could think that John, doesn't like, oh, I should be there. It's absolutely John's place to be in that band. So that's why, I'm happy for him. I'm happy that he's back with them. And
also, there has to be some element of so you think the intent is to do a new record with John?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing. There's, no matter what, John and Flea specifically had a musical language, and a connection that was made when John was 17. 18. Flea was, I don't even think he was 30 yet. Hillel had just died. The band hadn't had any major success. They're very different people, and it's a very different time.
Yeah.
And when I joined, it's 2009. It's a different time. And I think, everyone in the band, I couldn't be more grateful for how open they were to me on so many levels. I mean, that's why there's that B-Sides album for the first, because I brought in a lifetime worth of song ideas. And we went wild. We recorded 50 songs, and there was 25, 30 more that didn't get finished. It was crazy, and it was they were very open to me, very trusting. I think there was a lot of, a lot of my work or my writing at the time got sort of pushed aside, and as someone who was trying to write, trying to, do my part. Yeah. I remember it felt a little funny. I was sort of like, oh, okay, I thought I was doing good work, and it's over there, and I think everyone, Flea, the language that he and I were always trying to, I think he was trying as hard as possible, but I'll never be able to compete or contend with the history that he and John have, and that's
interesting. But you definitely had, you could read each other on stage. I mean, you knew what was up.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, if this had happened 5 years ago, I think it would have been hard for me just temporally to weigh that against what they had.
Yeah.
But now, with double that amount of time, 10 years, 2 tours, and almost 3 albums of writing, I'm really proud of what I did with them, and I feel like we did create something, and we did, and aside from the music, just on a personal level, with the guys individually as friends, with everyone in the touring family, I feel like I brought something to the whole, to the and I'm really proud of that.
Well, that's great, man. And it's
not, it shows me the growth. I told you, like I know for sure if this happened 5 years ago, I would have
just fallen into yourself.
Yeah.
And it's not acrimonious, and you have things you want to do.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah.
And you're going to keep all your friends. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Flea and I had lunch a couple days after. He said, this has never happened before. They've never made a member change, unless there was a tragedy or just a really dark situation or something. Yeah, but everything is great. I mean,
how did they tell you? Did they all sit down with you?
Yeah, I came over. It was really sweet. I rode my bike over because Flea's living really close to me at the moment.
Yeah,
and they just said, we'll get right to it. We've decided to ask John to come back to the band, and I just sort of sat there quiet for a second, and I said, I'm not surprised, and I guess the only thing I could think to say was, I wish I could have done something with you guys musically or creatively that would have made this an absolute impossibility. But then again, like I said, I'm in, that's next to impossible.
Why'd you say that, you're not surprised?
Well, just because I had known that John had reached out to Anthony not too long ago. There was just, it crossed my mind.
It was he was on the periphery.
Yeah, and I hadn't spoken to him, but I saw him at Flea's wedding. He looked, like he was in a really great place. And, if he's playing guitar again, I think there was a long period where he didn't have much of a relationship with the guitar. And
really, what was he playing? Keyboards?
Lots of synthesizers and programming, and he makes electronic music, and he got incredible at doing that. And I mean, from what I had heard from people, he had sort of put the guitar down for a while.
But it's back.
He's back. Yeah. So yeah, I mean,
well, I'm glad you're okay with it, man.
Yeah. No, I'll have little moments where, at the end of the day, as funny as it could be in that band sometimes, and as difficult as writing was sometimes, there's nothing like, and John said this to me when I joined, he said, there's nothing like waking up in the morning and coming up with an idea and going and playing it with your friends in a couple hours, and that's true. There's, like I said, when I was 10 or 11, I wanted to be in a band. I wanted to play music with friends, and I still want to do that.
Well, you can.
Yeah, well, hopefully, yeah.
So what's the plan? You going to get the Dot Hacker guys together?
Maybe.
I mean, this is pretty fresh news.
It's fresh news, and it's the first time I've had nothing on my calendar since I was a
But
teenager.
You're not freaking out?
No, not yet, no. And, no. Because I have an amazing workspace, and...
Where, at your house?
No, I have I don't call it a studio because I don't really record myself except on little cassette 8 tracks.
Right.
But it's just a warehouse with tons of stuff.
And you rent it?
Yeah.
That's interesting. So it's just you, or is it a space?
Yeah, it's just me. I have a friend who does kind of furniture and all kinds of art. Yeah, she's got a store out front and a workshop in the back.
I want to get a space. I want to play more with people, man.
Oh, come over.
Yeah, I don't know, man. How do you decide? Like, what effects do you lean on the most? What pedals?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, there's so much now. Yeah, I think I have a reputation for having a big pedal board.
Yeah.
But I love the most just playing clean, and sort of...
Yeah, the Strat plays clean. It's the best.
You have a ton of things you can do with just the tone knobs. And
you can, huh?
Yeah. And
And I got that weird little 57 Fender Deluxe over there.
Beautiful.
What do you play through that was the amp?
I think I have one of those.
You do?
I'm not sure if it's the same exact year. Mine might be a year after.
Yeah.
But
they're good when you crank them all the way up, huh?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Get all dirty. And
it's incredible. That's what you want. Yeah, I have too much stuff, actually. I'm probably going to have to,
But you play Firebirds, too?
I have one, yeah.
Just one?
Yep, have one. Oh, no. I have a bunch. I have a couple. But, I've not... Let's see. I have 3 Firebirds.
You like them?
I do. Yeah, the Firebird 7. Polly Harvey played that on the tour that I did with her, and I would play it for a couple of songs, and I sort of fell in love with it there.
What's the sound like? Is it a humbucker or it's a weird single coil?
They're those Gibson mini humbuckers, yeah. And I have a Les Paul in it with a Firebird pickup, which is what Neil Young and then Daniel Lanois I think he based one of his guitars on Neil's, where you put the mini humbucker in the bridge position. Yeah, so you kind of have two really disparate tones.
Like between the humbucker and the mini humbucker?
Between the, yeah.
I thought that Neil played those P90s. I thought
so it's a P90 in the neck and a Firebird in the bridge with a Bigsby.
Wow, that's what that black Neil Young guitar that fucked
it's a
up
gold
Deluxe.
top.
I know,
it's a 53 gold top painted black, and Lanois has a 53 that he left gold, but I did some playing with him.
For what?
Just through friends. The guy I was trying to start a band with right after the PJ Harvey tour.
Yeah.
He was good friends with Lanois, and we just kind of would go over to his house and play for fun, and then he had some dates.
He's got a lot of toys, right?
A lot of toys, yeah. And I did some shows up in Canada with him, which is great. And his engineer at the time became a really good friend, and he's the one that recorded that first Dot Hacker album.
Oh, okay. Didn't Lanois do something with some weird techno dude?
Venetian Snares.
Yeah, I was
who also makes music with Frusciante.
Oh, Venetian Snares. That's he's a Frusciante collaborator?
Yep.
Like, I tried to listen to that album. I dug it. I got into it. I don't know how many times I could listen to it.
The Lanois.
Yeah.
Yeah. I heard it once.
Yeah. So, all right then, man. So, your folks now, are they okay with your life?
Yeah. They are, yeah. Now they are, for sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And y'all get along?
Yeah.
And did you when you put your guitar back together that you broke in front of your mom? Did you?
Well, they were at the Hall of Fame induction ceremony. They couldn't believe it.
So they knew it was that guitar. She knew it was the one you broke.
Yeah.
Well, that's nice. You got full circle, and they're happy.
Absolutely full circle. Yeah.
Good talking to you, man.
Thank you. Thanks for having me over.
Yeah. Thanks for the records.
Yeah.